On my birthday, my son gave $100,000 to his mother-in-law and called me a failure. What happened next felt like an eruption, shaking the very foundations of my life. Surrounded by family, laughter squeezed through the air, but it rang hollow in my chest. I should be felt joy, yet there I stood, paralyzed by anxiety. Tyler had graduated with honors, the kind of achievements I thought should unite us, but now I felt the creeping dread that I was merely a relic in his world. I watched him. I admired his crisp suit, the success that seemed to radiate from him like the sun. Tyler had moved on from the greasy hands of a mechanic's life, from the worn boots and fading caps. Wasn't I proud of him? Yes, but with each toast and smile exchanged, an inexplicable ache twisted in my gut. The values I fought to instill, hard work, respect, now felt like stumbling blocks in the path Tyler was forging. What I had sacrificed to provide a solid foundation seemed to vanish in his ambition, like dust in the wind. As everyone gathered around, I cast a sidelong glance at my mother, who was watching her grandson with pride swelling in her eyes. When Tyler stood, my heart raced. What would he say? Would he surprise me with a tribute to the struggles we both faced, or would he lay bare the discomfort beneath layers of success? The microphone felt heavy in his grip, like my heart in my chest. But nothing could have prepared me for the shockwave that sprung from his words. Graham, he beamed, looking to her, then fixing his gaze on me like a dagger, this check is for you. It's for your retirement because, Dad, he hesitated, the weight of his own truth hanging in the air, you never provided a better life for us. The room fell silent, laughter extinguished, replaced by an aura of disbelief and tension. The accusation reverberated through me like a hammer hitting an anvil. My mind raced. Failure? A quivering disbelief clashed with the deep-rooted pride I held for all Tyler had achieved. What had he become? In his eyes, I had turned from a steadfast provider to an obsolete relic, my contributions deemed insufficient. That realization shattered something deeper within me. And there it was, his frustration, barbed and raw, aimed not just at me but at the very essence of what I believed success to be. The words cut sharp, igniting a fury I hardly recognized. As I confronted Tyler, accusations flew like arrows, revealing a simmering tension we had buried over the years. I questioned every choice I made, every moment I chose work over family, every late shift at the shop. Had I led him astray in pursuing dreams beyond my reach? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In the aftermath, I felt wrecked. I realized how far our perspectives had branched apart, fractures forming between us. Just then, a bizarre stroke of fate directed my gaze towards the back of my workshop, a dusty, unlabeled ledger from my grandfather's time. In my hesitation to investigate its contents, I sensed not just secrets, but an entire legacy woven through both our pasts that could redefine what success meant for us both. But before I could even embrace hope, my phone rang, cutting through the silence. It was Tyler, his voice breaking. A choice lay before him, a crossroads that could unravel everything we'd just begun to mend. How could we possibly navigate these turbulent waters of identity, pride, and the unspoken weight of generations? Everything I thought to be stable family, value, connection was tipping. What lay on the horizon was uncertainty itself, and I felt that sharp knot of dread. Returning, sinking deeper into my reality. The phone call lingered, engulfing the stillness like an unwelcome fog. My heart raced, each pulse echoing Tyler's words back to me. You never provided a better life. Those words surged in my mind, relentless. How had we arrived at this moment, a chasm dividing us when I thought we were solid? I clenched the phone, the heat of my palm serving as a stark reminder of the connection I feared would slip away. When I finally answered, the tremor in his voice unveiled a vulnerability beneath his brash exterior. Dad, can we talk? The invitation sat heavy. My instincts screamed to respond with anger, to return the barbs he dethroned so carelessly before our family. But buried beneath my own hurt, a more profound truth stirred a need to understand him, to reach across the empty space and find the son I once recognized. Where? I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. Meet me at the garage. Please, he said. Before the call ended abruptly, the drive to the garage felt endless. Memories of lubricant-scented hands teaching him the intricacies of engines surfaced, laughter echoing in the recesses of my mind. I recalled the pride I had taken in crafting a path for him, passing on the knowledge of my trade as though it were a family heirloom, a legacy. Had it all been for nothing? As I parked, the shadows of an uncertain future loomed in the spaces between the familiar vehicles. The garage stood silent, but each tool, each rusted machine, whispered a history that had once been vibrant. Tyler was there, bending over an engine, his sleek suit now replaced by grease-stained coveralls. Surface-level humility belied the tension wrapped around us like a coiled spring that he straightened, wiping his hands before meeting my gaze. For a moment, nothing was said as we stood like two strangers, the air thick with unspoken grievances. I was ready to confront him again, yet something restrained me, perhaps the recognition of the flawed mirrors we were to each other, both projecting our failures onto the other. I don't have the right words, Tyler began, words spilling out in a rush. What I said, it felt like truth in the moment, but I don't know how to bridge the gaps between us. Instead of feeling defensive, I felt a stirring of empathy. This was a young man grappling with the weight of expectation, someone molded not just by my actions but by the relentless world pressed against his shoulders. Then let us start from where we are, I replied, my voice steadying. What is it that you really want? His eyes flickered, a tempest of emotions swirling. I want, he paused, considering the weight of his own desires, to create a better life than what we had. I thought money could buy that. A painful honesty poured out of him, and there it was, the crux of our conflict laid bare. For him, achievement was defined by financial markers, while I had equated it with tangible labor and resilience, a philosophy now in jeopardy. But didn't I once share that vision of success? Could the ledger from my grandfather, waiting at home, contain answers? Tyler, I started, but hesitated. If I was to teach him anything now, it had to be from a place of humility. I needed to show him the lessons woven through our history, not lecture him. Let us discover what success means to both of us. He met my eyes, uncertainty mingling with a flicker of hope. Can we really just start over? A new energy surged through me. The awkward burden began to lift, revealing the fracture as an opportunity for growth rather than despair. Before I could assure him further, flashes of doubt resurfaced. Could I guide him back to his roots while remaining open to the evolution we both needed? Let us find that ledger together. Maybe it has something to offer us, I suggested, feeling the first stirrings of determination. The act of cooperating felt like a first step, albeit hesitant, into a new understanding. Tyler paused. A fragile smile broke through his unease. You mean it? Yes, I affirmed, feeling exhilarated by the prospect. A potential redemption hung in the air, but anticipation gave way to a terrifying thought. What if the answers contained both truths and untruths that could shatter us further? Dad, he said, his sincerity reaching out like lifelines thrown into dark waters. I need you to believe in me too. This is just as much your journey as it is mine. As we left the garage together, I felt a cautious optimism budding against the backdrop of chaos in my heart. In the shadow of rebuilding, clarity gradually emerged from the chaos. But what awaited in the past's ledger could irreversibly alter everything, raising the stakes in ways I hadn't anticipated. The foundational stones we would uncover together might be the very shards of our broken relationship. Unbeknownst to me, the journey back through the legacy might reveal hidden truths, forcing us to confront our most daunting fears and desires. As I drove off, a sense of urgency seized me. What would we find? The fragile truth seemed as precarious as glass. Would it lead to deeper understanding or further chaos? I could only hope our next steps would yield the answers we desperately sought. The drive back felt surreal, the weight of unaddressed concerns buoying between us. Tyler's earlier words haunted me. You never provided a better life. What constituted a better life for him? As we turned into our driveway, a sense of foreboding mingled with anticipation. The challenge we faced was not just about repairing our relationship, it was about redefining our respective identities amidst the remnants of failure and expectation. Inside the house, the familiar atmosphere felt suffocating. Each corner echoed with memories of laughter and arguments, achievements celebrated too often alongside shrunken expectations. The ledger awaited him on the dining table, its presence almost taunting, filled with historical markers of success and a legacy that seemed both daunting and essential. "Dad, can we look at that ledger now?" Tyler's voice interrupted my spiraling thoughts, urgency evident. I nodded, but my stomach churned. I'd always considered knowledge a sword, sharp yet double-edged. Part of me feared the cuts it might inflict on both of us. As we spread the ledger's pages across the table, time felt suspended. Each entry told a story, mine cloaked in pride and sacrifice, his looming with the weight of expectations unfulfilled. "Look at this," he said, tracing a finger along one of the entries. "You worked non-stop, but what did you really gain? You barely took time off." His observation stung. There were sacrifices made for a stable life, a vision I clung to as a lifeline. "I built this for you," I replied, the defensiveness rising. "Every hour I spent was about ensuring you had choices." "Choices?" Tyler shot back, incredulous. "But having choices doesn't mean we ever learn to enjoy the moment, did it? I want to live, Dad, not just exist." The truth of his words unsettled me. Perhaps I had lost myself in the pursuit of success and overlooked the very essence of living. "Then let us explore what living truly means," I said, hoping to steer the conversation away from confrontation toward revealing something new. His eyes softened slightly, indicating a flicker of openness. "Talking is easy, but living it, that's where it becomes hard." We shared quiet contemplation as we continued to examine the entries, traversing through dates that marked significant achievements along with poignant failures. One particular entry about my own unique car restoration project snagged my attention. It felt like a lifetime ago when I meticulously rebuilt every part, pouring my heart into crafting something beautiful out of rust. I glanced at Tyler, revealing a sliver of vulnerability. "Remember that old Mustang? I felt alive working on that car. It symbolized something more than just an object. It was about creativity, growth." Tyler absorbed my words, nodding slowly. "So, you found joy in making something rather than just finishing a task?" I recognized the moment a vital turning point. His quest for meaning mirrored my reality. What if we combined that mindset? We could restore a car together, not to sell it or showcase it, but to revel in the process. An unsteady silence responded, but I saw a spark ignite in his expression. Could this collaborative project signify a shift? A way to embrace living, not just surviving together? "I'd like that," he admitted, a combination of enthusiasm and wariness in his voice. "But what if we fail at that too?" The question hung between us, potent and vulnerable. I felt the weight of my own past failures crash against my resolve, pushing me toward honesty. "Then we learn from it, together." As the words slipped from my tongue, a renewed energy coursed through me. It was a pact forged in uncertainty, yet tethered by the possibility of growth. The ledger would remain a business of numbers, but we were on the precipice of something far greater, a chance to redefine ourselves amidst our failures. Tyler picked up the ledger, his fingers grazing the pages, a cautious excitement lighting his features. I could sense his determination blossoming alongside mine. We both craved authenticity, and perhaps through this endeavor we could build a language of our own. But beneath this newfound camaraderie, darkness lingered. Self-doubts and unspoken fears danced at the edges, threatening to undermine our progress. What awaited us as we ventured into unknown territory? Could we truly reconcile the past and forge the future we desired? As we set about planning our next steps, the questions began to swirl in my mind. The echoes of uncertainty remained, and I knew deep down that facing the truth of our failures would be the most challenging part of the journey. Ultimately, could we embrace both our mistakes and our potential? The question lingered, and with it, a sense of urgency accelerated in my chest. The leaps we were taking required courage, not just from him, but from me. Would our exploration lead to true healing, or alternatively plunge us into deeper chaos? Only the next chapter in our story would reveal the truth. The morning light filtered through the kitchen window, illuminating the remnants of last night's conversation. As Tyler and I stood shoulder to shoulder, analyzing the faded paint hues of old car parts stacked in the corner, a familiar dread crept into my chest. The tasks before us were simple: clean the garage, inventory the pieces, and set the stage for our ambitious restoration project. Yet, each movement felt heavy with implications. "Can we start with the engine?" Tyler suggested, breaking the silence. A simple question, but the tone held layers, surrendering neither to enthusiasm nor hesitation. "Sure, that sounds good." I forced a smile, stifling my anxieties. The fear of failure brushed against me, every effort to disregard it painfully conscious. As we worked, the mechanical pieces began to mirror the components of our relationship, some parts rusty and worn, others gleaming with potential. With every bolt we tightened and every gear we inspected, I found myself reflecting on my past choices, each decision a fragment of a narrative now shared with my son. "Dad?" Tyler's voice cut through my thoughts. "What was the hardest thing for you when you were working your first job?" The question hung in the air, heavy yet vital. "The pressure," I replied, searching for clarity. It felt like my worth was tied to the numbers I produced. Every mistake screamed failure. Tyler considered this, his brow furrowed. "So, did you ever feel accomplished?" The question paralyzed me. Accomplishment felt elusive, a fleeting concept tethered to validation from others. I thought I did, but I realize now that I might have equated it with losing myself. Maybe I was looking for approval in the wrong places. "That makes sense." He nodded, but there was still apprehension in his voice. "But how do we fix that?" With resolve surging through me, I hesitated, then answered, "We start here, with this car. This project isn't just about the end result, it's about learning to enjoy the process together." He looked up, curiosity mingling with concern. "But what if something goes wrong? What if it does?" I retorted, surprised by my own intensity. "If things don't turn out as expected, it'll be a lesson. We'll adjust. We'll grow. But we can't live in fear." Tyler met my gaze, a silent exchange of understanding flowing between us. We were in uncharted waters, but perhaps that discomfort could lead to clarity. Leveraging our father-son dynamic into a solid foundation was daunting, yet fundamentally necessary. As we transitioned from the engine to the bodywork, the chatter of neighbors outside invaded our focus. Laughter erupted from the backyard next door, a stark contrast to our tentative efforts. I yearned for that lightheartedness yet feared it couldn't exist for us. "Some people seem to have it together," Tyler remarked, pulling me back from the edge of my despondency. "Why can't we enjoy things like that?" Maybe enjoyment requires effort, a process we haven't embraced fully. The words resonated, bringing with them a sliver of realization that our struggle could be a shared learning experience rather than a burden. The day melted away amid newfound discussions and resolutions as we began to dismantle misconceptions about ourselves, each other, and the very fabric of our lives. Yet, as the sun dipped below the horizon, doubt crept back. The fear of not being enough gnawed persistently. Had I truly changed? Would this project become a site of healing, or would it deepen the rift created by past failures? In that moment of reflection, an unsettling thought surfaced. What if our inability to move forward was more entrenched than I hoped? The prospect loomed. Disappointment had the power to seep into every corner of our journey. Just as I settled into the rhythm of contemplation, Tyler asked, "So, what do you think our end goal should be?" The question echoed in my mind, prompting not just a response, but a confrontation with our motives. Was it about the car, or was there something deeper at stake? The setting sun cast long shadows, stirring a desire for something more, a tangible mark of reconciliation, of growth. What if this project was just the beginning? The weight of implications started a new contemplation. Clarity was a pursuit, but so was confrontation. As I turned to face Tyler, the moment hummed with potential, and I realized the journey that lay ahead would not just be about restoring a classic car, but redefining legacy. What awaited us as we ventured deeper into this realm of transformation? Would we unearth the answers to our shared riddle, or would we face the chaos of our past once more? The future loomed ahead, tantalizing yet daunting, an uncharted chapter alive with possibilities, just waiting to be explored. The air crackled with unsaid words as Tyler and I paused our work, the weight of his last question lingering heavily like a thick fog. The day had been filled with tentative attempts at connection, yet uncertainty still clouded the horizon of our project and relationship. I felt a nagging urge to steer the conversation back to lighter territory, but I knew we were at a crossroads that required confrontational honesty. "Dad," Tyler finally broke the silence, his voice betraying his hesitation. "What if I don't want to end up like you?" Each syllable landed like a stone dropped into deep water, the ripple effect both obvious and agonizing. I could swallow the insult, but I couldn't ignore the truth buried within it. My chest tightened as I wrestled with an unexpected wave of emotion, half anger and half understanding. "I'm trying to show you that you can do better than I did," I managed, though my voice trembled slightly. "I get that, but what if I don't even know what better looks like?" Tyler shot back, frustration bubbling to the surface. "How can I trust you to guide me when you feel stuck?" His words felt like knives, and I realized I had to confront not just my failures but the way they cast shadows over our shared journey. Tyler was grappling with his own fears, fear of mediocrity, fear of repeating my mistakes, the collective weight of expectations suffocating our progress. That moment, raw and unfiltered, illuminated an essential truth. He was searching for guidance, and I was scrambling to offer it. "Let us figure it out together then," I proposed with a newfound determination, shifting my focus from defending my past to embracing the potential of our present. "What do you want to achieve?" "We need a plan, something that feels real and attainable." Tyler's expressions flickered through doubt, but then something shifted as curiosity pried open the door to possibility. "I want to feel like I'm building something meaningful. Not just the car," but he hesitated, searching for the right words, "like I'm actually making my own life, independent of whatever you are or were." His admission struck me deep. It was exactly what I had feared would happen, a split between us, a divergence that felt both inevitable and profoundly sad. But beneath that, I sensed an undercurrent of opportunity, a chance for him to claim his own path while I sculpted my own. "Let us take this car as a metaphor," I suggested, leaning into the opportunity to fuse our lives through this project. "Every scratch, every dent has a story. If we're honest, we're just as flawed as the parts we're working on. But we can rebuild together." The afternoon waned as niggling doubts filled the air, yet for the first time, we were navigating through the complexity as a unit rather than as isolationists roadblocked by fear. "What if we approach this project differently?" Tyler asked, his enthusiasm rekindled. "What if we set goals, not just for the car, but for ourselves?" "Exactly," I replied, emboldened by his willingness to engage. "What do you want to craft together, aside from metal and mechanics?" "I want to step away from your shadow, find a direction that feels like mine," he stated resolutely, eyes brightening with recognition. We began sketching out jargon-laden blueprints for the car restoration, but beneath the mechanical details lay the blueprint of our relationship reforging itself. Discussions about redoing the engine soon became brainstorming sessions for Tyler's aspirations. Each part we discussed transformed into a piece of our identity we could shape together. However, amidst this collaborative spirit, a nagging fear whispered through me: what if this didn't translate into lasting change? What if, after all this effort, he still perceived me as a failure? By the time we had established a framework for our project, the walls of the garage felt less confining and more liberating. We'd forgotten the laughter from next door. Instead, we found new resonance in our banter, sketching out plans and ethics along the way. It was a promising start, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that we still stood on rocky foundations. As we prepared to close for the day, Tyler turned to me, his eyes searching. "Can we go at this together? I mean, really lean into it?" "Together," I affirmed, the power of the word echoing between us, a commitment forged in intent. But could that commitment endure through the chaos of our past? The shadows of my own failures threatened lurking just outside that brilliance, and as I pondered the journey that lay ahead, a haunting question nagged at me: what if the reconciliation we sought was just a dream veiled by our shared history? In moving forward with this project, we faced a stark reality: restoration could yield both success and unresolved strife. Decisions were ahead, ones that would test not only our creative instincts but our connection's integrity. Would we learn to embrace our individual journeys while forging a renewed partnership, or would each step forward lead us back into the chaos of what once was? After the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows in the garage, I couldn't shake the heaviness resting upon my shoulders. We had turned a corner today, yet each step felt like a balancing act over soft ground. I was no longer a solitary figure clinging to past achievements. I was a father striving for a connection, one that now felt precarious. As I gathered the tools from the workbench, a moment of introspection snagged on my thoughts. What I had always considered my greatest failures, unfulfilled dreams, financial struggles, had now given rise to Tyler's ambition to carve his own path. Yet, how much of my reality, my identity, was tied directly to that shield of regret? I wondered, could I redefine myself not through my past failures, but through the potential of this very relationship? The next day arrived with the clarity of dawn light. I woke up, heart pounding, reflecting on the conversation. What if I could use our evolving project to unearth latent skills within both of us? I ached to show Tyler that building this car wasn't just about mechanics. It was about learning from one another, confronting our insecurities, and molding our future together. Driven by newfound resolve, I delved deeper into the restoration plan at lunch. We needed a timeline and clear, measurable goals. I sketched an ambitious structure, tasks broken down into weekly milestones and reflections on progress, punctuated by moments of celebration. This was different. I wasn't simply laying out steps for the car project. I was illustrating a roadmap to transform our relationship and personal growth. Tyler, I've been thinking, I began cautiously during our afternoon meeting in the garage. What if we set both a project deadline for the car and a personal growth checkpoint every month? We could evaluate not just what we've built but how we've improved as individuals. His brow furrowed, then slowly brightened with contemplation. You mean, like, personal habitats? Areas where we commit to working on ourselves? Exactly, I replied, feeling the energy pulse between us. Share your weaknesses, and let us figure out how to face them head-on. I'll share mine too. I guess that means I have to come clean about the pressure I feel to excel at school, he admitted, a hesitant edge to his voice. It feels like everything in my life is riding on GPA, like I don't have that freedom you talk about. I nodded, understanding the pressure he faced. It's important to remember that growth isn't measured by grades. It's resilience, creativity, and authenticity. Just like restoring this car, it's about the process more than the outcome. We can help each other find that freedom. As our conversation deepened, I began to notice an unexpected transformation. Tyler started speaking about interests beyond the mechanics of the car, the design of the bodywork, the colors, how they could invoke a feeling. He wanted to create something that represented him. The walls in the garage seemed to dissolve further in that moment. What started as a mechanical project transcended into deep personal exploration, and yet, a tiny voice whispered within me. What happens if he talks about his aspirations and I can't meet him there? Tyler, I started, cautious yet direct. What if our attempts to reach these goals turn into disappointments? What if we face failures again? He met my gaze, and in that connection, clarity emerged. Dad, I'm not afraid of failing with you, because it means I'm trying. We both are. We're on this journey together. His resolve softened my anxieties, but conflicting emotions surged within me. The fear of not being enough rubbed against hope for our newfound path. Choices lingered ahead, ones that demanded vulnerability from us both. The evening settled into reflective silence as we wrapped our discussions for the day. We stood shoulder to shoulder, looking over our plans while the car rested before us, an unformulated canvas. Tomorrow, let us really dig into the engine work, Tyler said, a grin auditioning for permanence. I think we can get it running. As I nodded in agreement, a bold idea struck me. Perhaps it was time to uncover my own hidden capacities. I had hidden behind past failures far too long. Tyler, I breathed, as I felt a surge of empowerment. What if I introduced some tech to our project? Evaluate how we could modernize it. Would you be open to that? His expression illuminated with enthusiasm. We had reached an inflection point, one where discoveries waited beyond the horizon. The commitment to confront our shared history felt liberating, yet the lingering fear of falling back into confusion hovered ominously. but just as we were set to dig in, Tyler's phone buzzed, and as he glanced down, the surge of energy in the room waned briefly. I caught the tail end of his expression, concern clouded by urgency. "Who is it?" I asked, masking the sudden anxiety creeping into my chest. His fingers hovered, pulse quickening. "Just someone from school. We can talk more about this tomorrow." I nodded, but unease slipped back into the shadows, forcing me to confront a chilling thought. At the very moment we were building the foundations of our relationship, could external stresses disrupt our journey? Tomorrow, we'd need to face whatever awaited, both on the workbench and beyond together, or perhaps not. The following morning felt heavy with uncertainty as I awoke, the remnants of last night's conversation swirling in my mind. How could a single text distract us from the momentum we had built? The gleam of the project set before us dimmed in light of the complications that echoed in Tyler's hesitation. Could the day ahead possibly illuminate our doubts, or would it compound them? As I pulled myself from bed, I felt the weight of expectation press down from every angle. Today was not just about the car, it felt like a reckoning was brewing. The breakfast table felt unfamiliar, each bite a reminder of our fractured relationship. Tyler sat across from me, his phone within arm's reach, eyes occasionally flitting over to it, his mind clearly elsewhere. "Want to talk about what's bothering you?" I ventured carefully, poking at the silence that enveloped us. He shrugged but didn't look up. "Not really," he muttered, pushing his cereal around in a circle. My instinct suggested to push further, but I paused, grounding myself. I had to navigate with caution, remember that every interaction was a choice, a chance to build or tear down the fragile bridge we were constructing. After breakfast, we met in the garage, the project looming large as an unfinished statue waiting for the final polish. As I stepped closer to the car, the mix of hope and trepidation welled up in my chest. I noticed that Tyler seemed distracted, staring at the design sketches. I sensed that whatever weighed on his mind could spill over, affecting our efforts. "Let us get started," I suggested, feigning confidence in my tone. "Shall we go over the engine first?" He nodded absently, still lost in whatever thoughts clung to him like shadows. It was becoming clear I would need to gently unearth his concerns. As we worked together, I decided to share a small burden of my own. "You know, I was thinking about the pressure we both feel. I've had my own struggles, often failing to meet my own standards," I admitted, hoping that admitting weakness might encourage him to open up. Tyler paused, wrench in hand. "That's different. You were successful at one point." "Were you?" The challenge in his voice cut through me, sharp and clear. "Do you really think I've been a success?" This was it, the moment where I should either rise to the occasion or retreat into the comfort of silence. I built that life, but it wasn't without missteps. Maybe I don't measure success the same way any longer. It's not just achievements, it's about growth, facing challenges together. His brow unfurled as he processed my words. "I guess it's easier to point fingers." Just then, I noticed the tension in his shoulders shift, like a dam cracking after a drought. "Tyler, about yesterday, is there something I should know? Something that person could potentially disrupt between us?" He turned away then, a silence so profound it thickened the air. After what felt like an eternity, he finally exhaled. "My mom, she's been spreading these stories about you. I didn't want to believe them, but she said you didn't care enough to fight for what you had. The accusation poisoned the air between us." "That's not true. I've fought a battle every day, just in different ways." "What if she's right? What if I inherit whatever failure you've been running away from?" His voice trembled, revealing a crack in his carefully constructed facade. The question hung ominously. It urged me to confront my past once more. I thought about our plan, the milestone we had envisioned. "You won't inherit failure if you learn from it. We're remaking ourselves here, Tyler. I want you to see that we can choose a different path together." And yet, in that moment, I felt the weight of what lay ahead. Would he trust that? Would he believe there was enough time for us to reshape our destinies? The words slipped from my mouth before I could weigh them. What if today is a pivotal moment? What if we probe deeper into these fears and confront them head-on? Tyler's eyes flickered with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. Like a truth ceremony? Yes, I breathed, my heart pounding. With both fear and revelation. And maybe we begin that today. We could chart the territory of our insecurities and strengths, aligning them with this project. He thought for a moment, gripping the tools tightly as if they were handles of stability. It sounds necessary. But are you ready for what we might uncover? I nodded, though uncertainty gnawed at my insides. I can't go back to fearing what's been said without knowing the truth. As we stood there, on the brink of confronting our inner fears and external narratives, the looming question still hung in the air. What truths lay waiting for us, and would they bring us closer, or further apart? The evening would usher forth revelations, but first, we had to dive into that garage and uncover not just the bones of a car, but the very marrow of ourselves. The air in the garage felt electric, charged with an unsaid promise as I took a deep breath, ready to step into the uncharted territories of our fears. Tyler, still clutching the wrench, seemed to be wrestling with the weight of more than just metal and mechanical parts. The stakes were raised, and we both understood this was a pivotal moment. Let us lay it all out, I suggested. What you're feeling, the doubts, let us not skate around them. I motioned to the scattered tools, instantly grounding us in the present task. This project might reflect our journey. Every piece plays a role, just like our experiences. Tyler looked up, his brow furrowing as if he were still pondering whether to jump into this plunge with me. What if I'm not ready? He asked, vulnerability rippling through his voice, echoing my own internal hesitation. Readiness is often about taking the first step despite knowing we might stumble. I guided my thoughts outward, coaxing confidence from my chest. Remember, each flaw in this car will teach us something invaluable. It's similar to what we're facing. It's not about the perfection of the outcome but the understanding we gain along the way. He hesitated, hands caught between tools and vulnerability, and then began to speak, almost as if the words had been bottled up for too long. Sometimes, I feel like I'm out of my depth. The weight of expectations, both yours and my mom's, I don't want to replicate mistakes or disappoint anyone. Disappointment often comes from unmet expectations, I replied gently. What would it mean for you to set your own standards? To create success terms that resonate with you rather than what others dictate. He rubbed the back of his neck, my questions landing heavily. What if my standards are too low? Or worse, what if they never amount to anything? I understand those fears, I admitted, the familiarity of my own self-doubt creeping back. But I've learned that those standards you're worried about can shift and change. They can grow as you grow. Tyler set the wrench down and stared at the engine block. It's like when I look at the car, I see potential but also the work it needs to become what it can be. Am I the same? A moment of clarity washed over me. It was the perfect metaphor not only for the car but for us both. Exactly. We're all works in progress. The beauty lies in recognizing that fixing up the car is just a part of our journey, much like fixing ourselves. And yes, it can be painful to confront those things, but it will be worth it. The silence that followed felt heavy with realization. I watched as Tyler started to process my words, a small flicker of determination ignited in his eyes. Okay, he finally said, exhaling visibly. I want to take that leap. Then let us start by confronting what's holding us back. I took a step closer. Tell me about those stories your mom spread. It sounds like there's a fear that needs unraveling. Bitterness tinged his expression. She thinks I don't take things seriously. Maybe she's right in some way. Have you ever voiced your own opinions? Really stand up for what you believe? The question hung in the air, tight and resonant. Nervously, Tyler fidgeted, his earlier resolve trembling. He stopped short, swallowed, then met my gaze. I've been so scared of her disappointment. The greatest fear is often within ourselves. It's vital we separate others' perceptions from our own identity, I said, my heart quickening. Even if it means having uncomfortable conversations. What if that was your first step in redefining your journey? As Tyler contemplated my words, the room felt transformed. Shadows replaced by the warm light of possibility. I could sense he teetered on the brink of a breakthrough, ready to wrestle with his truth. It was a moment of reckoning. Maybe I need to draw my line in the sand, he admitted softly, and though uncertainty danced in his expression, within it lay burgeoning hope. Exactly. My words came out softly, encouraging. And that line not only defines your path but gives you the chance to convey strength and resilience. But just as I believed that momentum had shifted in our favor, an unsettling thought crossed my mind. Would Tyler have the courage to face his mother, to redefine his narrative? The projects had their own timelines and challenges, but these internal battles felt beyond our control. Are you ready for that conversation? I asked, my voice carefully calibrated. His shoulders rose and fell slowly. Maybe not today, but I think I might finally be ready to prepare for it. As we returned our focus to the scattered pieces of the engine before us, one thing became undeniable: confronting our challenges might propel us forward, but the deeper truths remained unarticulated, waiting just beneath the surface. The night loomed ahead, ripe with possibility, yet filled with the tension of unmet confessions. What awaited us when we dared to face our fears together on that path? There was a tangible shift in the air as the weight of possibility settled between us, a heavy blanket of both hope and fear. I watched Tyler tighten his grip on the wrench as if it was anchoring him to the moment. I couldn't shake the feeling that while we stood on the brink of a breakthrough, the depth of what he faced loomed like a shadow, whispering doubts that might never fully dissipate. Let us dive a little deeper, I suggested, wanting to guide him past the initial storm of emotions. Why do your mother's opinions hold so much power over you? What is it about those perceived expectations that creates fear? He shifted uncomfortably, eyes drifting back to the engine. It's just, I don't want to disappoint her. She sacrificed so much for me. The weight in his voice was palpable, a mix of love and guilt that threatened to drown him. Sacrifice doesn't equate to ownership of your choices, I replied, gently probing. She did what she thought was best, but your path is yours alone. It's essential to acknowledge that your life doesn't exist to fulfill someone else's dreams. His brow furrowed, contemplating. But isn't it natural to want to make my parents proud? Absolutely. But at what cost? I pressed, wanting him to confront the uncomfortable truth. If living to please others means neglecting your own desires, then are you truly living? The silence that followed told me everything. The flicker of realization ignited in him, and I could almost pinpoint the moments of self-discovery painting themselves in his mind. I smiled gently, urging him onward. Let us take an example. When you look at that car, what do you see? What do you want it to become? My eyes followed his, landing on the vehicle, a pile of potential waiting for its moment. I want to restore it, he stated firmly, newfound confidence resonating in his tone. But I fear I might mess it up. Messing up is part of the process, I challenged lightly. Just like we have to dismantle parts of our lives, whether relationships or expectations, before we can rebuild. What if you embrace that uncertainty? What if you let yourself fail a little, in order to grow? Overcoming the desire to protect ourselves often comes with the greatest risk. His self-imposed restraints were evident, but the courage simmering just below the surface began to take form. I guess it's about trusting myself to take that risk, he whispered, the vulnerability of the admission evident. If I keep everything bottled up, I'll never move forward. The corners of my mouth turned upward as I recognized the pivotal moment. Tyler had begun to untangle the voices that dictated his worth. Exactly. By acknowledging your fears, you empower yourself to redefine what success actually means to you. A smile flared briefly on his face, although uncertainty lingered around the edges. I could see his internal struggle mirrored in the way his hands clutched the wrench tightly, the weight of his potential clashing with the fear of inadequacy. Step by step, I reminded him. And maybe your first step is to voice these thoughts, even if it scares you. As we resumed our work, I noticed how Tyler's movements regained a sense of purpose, almost as if the answers to his internal conflict were now taking shape in the very machinery we sought to rebuild. He was beginning to shed the layers of expectation, one screw and bolt at a time, but as I watched him, a nagging thought crawled into my mind. Would he truly muster the courage to confront his mother? The anxiety twitched in his shoulders, a barrier he still had to cross. Next time we meet, promise me you'll have that conversation, I urged. These choices don't just define you, they illuminate the path for those around you too. His gaze met mine, challenging yet hopeful as he nodded. Okay. I will. As the night wore on and we turned wrenches and shared thoughtful pauses, the tension transformed. A newfound sense of agency arose in him. Yet as the garage lights dimmed slowly with the encroaching evening shadows, I felt that there was so much left unexamined, still lurking in the dark. A sense of urgency filled the air as I realized the scope of our next encounter would stretch beyond mechanical struggles. It might lead Tyler to a confrontation that could change everything. How far would he go to reclaim his narrative? Would he find the resolve to untangle the past while embracing his future? The morning sun filtered through the dust-laden windows of the garage, illuminating the haphazard array of tools and auto parts scattered across the workbench. Tyler stood before the half-finished engine, the once evident tension of uncertainty now replaced by a tentative determination. Today felt different, today felt ready. This would be the day we truly propelled ourselves into the depths of our mutual transformation. Ready to get to work? I asked, my voice steady as I approached, excitement surging within me. Yeah, he replied, a spark of fervor igniting in his eyes. I want to finish this engine today. That focus was palpable. Each bolt we tightened, each gear we installed served as monumental proof of how far we had come, not just as we shifted from an old project to a new one, but as a father and son healing past wounds. As we worked side by side, something shifted in the air, a realization flowing between us like a current. I'm starting to see how this project is more than just the car, Tyler admitted, his gaze fixed on the document I had presented, the timeline and goals for our restoration, swirling in a dance of dreams and objectives. It's a way for us to reset this relationship. Yes, I affirmed, feeling a swell of pride. Each step we take on this project matters. It rewrites our narrative. It's about taking ownership over our past failures and sculpting something new from them. For moments, we focused solely on the task at hand, the rhythm of wrench and metal encapsulating our silent resolve. As we sped through the laborious tasks ahead, I brought up our commitment. About your conversation with your mother, have you thought about how you want to approach that discussion? Tyler paused, wiping beads of perspiration from his brow. Yeah. I realize now that silence will never mend things between us. I have to stand up for myself. I have to define what I want. Encouragement pulsed through me. That's the essence of growth. But remember, you don't need to do it alone. You don't carry the burden of your past or expectations without support. What if she still doesn't understand? He pondered, his voice quiet yet tinged with anxiety. Then you advocate for yourself. Standing in your truth is essential. It'll grant you control rather than allowing others to dictate your worth, I advised, hoping the wisdom I had learned through my journey would inspire the same courage in him. The moment hung in the air, a gentle tension filled with unspoken possibilities unfolding before us. As we returned our focus to the car, camaraderie wrapped around us like an anchor. We weren't just restoring a vehicle, we were reclaiming each other's respect and rebuilding our foundations. Hours passed like seconds as we meticulously worked through each section of the engine, discussing not just mechanics but our aspirations and fears. Dad, Tyler ventured during a lull, how did you confront your failures when they felt so insurmountable? I hesitated, threading the answer carefully through my own apprehensions. I learned that recognizing my vulnerabilities became my strength. Allowing myself to feel that disappointment was integral to growth. It opened doors both to opportunities and to myself. His eyes sparkled with understanding, illuminating a path forward for both of us. You mean if I approach Mom honestly and accept the fallout, I'll come out stronger? Exactly. You are crafting your narrative, your path. With renewed fervor, we migrated toward the vehicle's body, laying fresh paint over the faded surface, the metaphor not lost on us. Let us make it a symbol, Tyler suggested, a representation of what we want to become. As not just a car but a bridge to our future? I concluded. His eyes gleamed, optimism emerging, an image of a future we both sought. As we neared completion of the restoration, our vision for the car had morphed into a tapestry of promise. Tyler began identifying colors, themes, reflective of our journeys intertwined. This represents growth, he declared joyfully. The tones reflect resilience, each layer represents everything we've gone through. I couldn't help but smile. We were no longer two people caught in stagnant waters, we were navigating uncharted currents together. The project had transformed our relationship beyond any preconceived boundaries. Later, as we stepped away from our work, I surveyed the nearing finished car, and contentment settled over me like a warm blanket. Tomorrow, you need to have that conversation with your mom, I said, standing firm. You promised. I will, Tyler affirmed, a new boldness permeating his voice. I can do this. Trust in yourself. The car embodies our journey. Just like its restoration, your relationship with her is an ongoing project in progress but worthwhile, I reminded him, my heart swelling with pride that as evening drew near and I prepared to leave the garage. I felt ready. I was filled with gratitude for the breakthroughs Tyler had achieved, and a sense of intimate acknowledgement settled between us. Through vulnerability came an unexpected intimacy, genuine acceptance blossoming beneath the surface. In that moment, as I turned the engine over for the final time, it roared to life like our relationship, echoing our shared narrative of struggle, resilience, and seeds of redemption. As the sunset reflected vibrant colors against the restored finish of the car, I silently recognized the longing to embrace this journey ahead, a new life, a renewed connection filled with possibility. Tyler, I said warmly, this car, it's not just a machine. It's a testament to our growth, our willingness to confront the past. He nodded, a smile crossing his face. Let us keep rebuilding. And I knew with that promise, we were not just partners in the restoration of a vehicle, but partners in the crafting of our future, one filled with understanding, growth, and irrevocable transformation. If you felt the urgency in this narrative of redemption, don't wait even one more second to join this journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that can inspire your own transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It truly makes a difference in how stories reach those who need them. Comment your reactions and theories about how Tyler will approach his mother, and share your own stories about overcoming challenges. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion today. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for personal growth and achievement.